Hello, my name is Brian Friedland and welcome to the first episode of Inside the GSC. Today I am interviewing West Florida's Alia Scotka, who is a senior on the women's golf team. She is a two-time All-GSC first team selection, the 2022 GSC Freshman of the Year, and chair of the GSC Student Athlete Advisory Committee. She will take us through her journey to becoming a Division II athlete, how she got involved with SAC, and more. All right, today I'm joined by University of West Florida and chair of the GSC Student Athlete Advisory Committee, Alia Scotka. Alia, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into this one. So far, the fall season, it's almost done. How have you felt about the start of your 2024-2025 season?
I think as a whole, uh, personally, I feel like I did pretty good. As a team, we're doing actually amazing. I think even with a small group, us only being six, we have a really good like relationship between each other, and we can have a reliance on each other's games and everything. So it's a really good atmosphere, and it looks really good for our spring season. So.
That's great. And then, so just diving into your background a little bit, how did you get into golf in the first place?
So, uh, actually, my dad, uh, he had some ladies' clubs just in his garage, and so he was like, "Let me go out in the range." He smacks a couple, and then was like, "Oh, let me take out my daughter." So I was about 5 or 6 when he took me out to like this little range, and bought a couple Walmart clubs. Told me to just smack away while he was hitting his ladies' clubs. That no one decided to tell him that they're ladies. Um, but middle school coach came around and he was like, "Oh, your daughter has a good swing. Like you should really look into like joining the first tee to help her, grow as a golfer." And he was like, "Oh, really? Sure. Like I'll put her in." So from there on, my dad put me into first tee, and I just grew the love for the sport and the people who are involved in it.
Oh, that's really cool. And then, so just following up on that, so as you got better and better at golf, going with your dad everywhere, and then eventually with your middle school success, was it always the dream to start competing at a higher level for golf, or was there something else you had in mind once you were starting to enter into high school?
It had always been a dream of mine to actually just play professionally.
Okay.
So it was kind of a stepping stone almost for me to like join uh, college first and then make my way up into the professional level. So long as I got through high school at like a decent average where I could get looked at and schools would look at me, that's where I was like, oh, okay, well, I can play at the collegiate level. And then you grow so much as a player and as an individual that you realize what you want to do with your career. And I still stuck with wanting to become a pro. So that is still a dream of mine.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And then, so you touched on your high school career a little bit. Take me through the recruiting process. What was that like? I feel like that's something you hear like the fine details about afterwards, but you don't necessarily hear about everything that goes along with it.
Yeah, actually, it's a bit of a process. I think you get like an idea of what you want to get your feet wet in with your sophomore year coming around. You're like, okay, I need to start looking at schools this like, sophomore year of high school, and then you're like, okay, I kind of have a dream school list going on. Then you kind of put into like, at least for me, I had friends of mine who are a couple years older than me at that time, so they gave me a little reference of an Excel spreadsheet. And so I put like my dream schools I wanted to go to and then just start researching what schools would be available on the Division II level and even D3 and then even junior, like, junior college. And so you have this little list of, for me, I had about 75 to 100 schools that I just like had on a list and had that research going on for me, emailed probably about 75 coaches, and only a handful of them come back because of how flooded most of those recruit emails are. So I got about like five or six that responded and kept in touch with two or three, and um, you build a relationship even with like talking to a Division 1 coach, and you establish that professionalism, and how to talk to others, and you have that experience of what the recruiting process is like. Then when I found myself like in between a relationship with one school and another, I still stuck with West Florida and really liked the relationship that my coach had with her players, along with how the facilities and the campus was laid out. So I was like, you know what? There's a more pull, there's a more draw to this school than there is at the Division 1 level than that they had to offer. So that is kind of the recruit process that I could kind of sum up.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So now, so we went through high school, we went through early life. Now we're into college. So you're majoring in graphic design. What exactly attracted you to that?
In high school, I didn't really have like a I guess, an interest in wanting to pursue anything that was, math or science related, because I
Right.
knew how invested I was going to be in golf and how much time consuming that is. So you know what, let me just like go with something I'm passionate about, and which is kind of along the lines of art. So I really like technology. I know that nowadays technology is becoming like our primary source of like things to learn from, and it's just becoming our second, basically our third, what is it called? Like, forget the word for it, but another outlet, right?
Right,
Our main
right.
sort, another main outlet that we use. So that was a big interest for me in high school, like web design, and just making things look presentable and aesthetic. So that was something that first impressions are huge, and I like to make that impression through art, and that's what drew me into graphic design.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. And then just building off of that, do you have like a favorite graphic design artist that you find inspiration in when you're doing your work or doing classwork or whatever, or is it just kind of you see something really cool online and that's kind of it? There's no like real other thought to it.
I think I have a lot of blending of like graphic design work from other, like all types of artists, and
Right.
even throughout my classes we researched so many that there I blend a lot of people's styles together to make my own. And inspiration is huge in a lot of my work. I tend to go with more simple but still detailed, if that makes sense.
Right.
I like to say my work is controlled chaos. So that's the style I kind of go down that I kind of go with.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. So then, now speaking of inspirations, now going back to golf, I know you've talked about your dad's influence in your golf career, but is there anybody that who has maybe had the biggest impact on you, or is there somebody that you also have a lot of, or that you've drawn a lot of inspiration from during your golf career? Or has it evolved, in other words?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you come across coaches and you come across people who interest you and everything, and their golf game, and your appreciation and respect for how they hold themselves on the course, and or just an athlete in general. So I mean, currently throughout the years, I looked up to girls that were older than me. Like, there's a girl that's actually on tour now. Her name's Lauren Miller. She played for Mississippi State, and she also was my teammate in high school. And so she's actually a pro on the Epson tour right now. A huge inspiration that I've always like. We've kind of pushed each other towards goals in college, junior golf, everything. And her name's Katie Craig. She plays for Western Kentucky, and right now she's doing really well. She's in stage two in the Q school, seeing her work, and just how she composes herself as an individual, like on and off the course. And right now in college, my biggest inspiration is has to be my coach. Her work ethic and how she has a vision for both us, and just how she wants to impact your life, not just for within your 4 years of college, but like past it. And I think having that relationship with your coach is really unique, especially like nowadays. So she's established that from the moment I stepped foot on campus, and it's been consistent all throughout it. So I really appreciate. I've always looked up to her, and how she holds her leadership. I take after her when it comes to like sack things and whatnot, and even her game too. Like her knowledge of the sport is insane, and just there's a lot to learn from her.
Gotcha. And then, so speaking of your coach, so she's described you as having an enthusiasm for life that is contagious. How has this trait been helpful to you in your golf career?
I think just I think knowing that you can just have fun, and at the end of the day, it's you're really hitting a rubber ball on grass, and and so you don't really like it's not gonna it's not you're trying not to see anything that detrimental or like life threatening, and so you're just trying to go out there and have fun and try to keep an like a very uplifting, positive attitude. Like you like I like to say that you use four muscles to smile than using like 47 muscles to frown. So like yeah, I was like, oh, there's less energy in smiling. Like, okay, like I'll just do that instead. So that's something that I like to take on with me, and just kind of going about with life with a positive attitude, positive mindset. You get farther without breaking yourself down. So
That's a great mentality to have. And then so obviously you have a very impressive resume on the course and you've made your impact felt at West Florida, whether it be through SAC or through your play on the course. So is there a specific leadership style that you've prided yourself on during your time as a Division II golfer? Or are you just kind of going with the flow and just being yourself?
I think I'm just being myself. That's actually a great answer, um, that I could think of. Actually, I think you establish that. I don't know. I would say that you establish that credibility with your game, and I'm glad that it can be motivational for my teammates. Um, I know that whatever score I put out, I always let them know. I'm like, hey, like I want you to play your best, and know that like I will support you in every shape or form, either it be good or bad, and I will uplift you and see the positive if you can't. I think that's a leadership trait that I feel like is very important to have, especially with how my team has evolved over the years. Even being a freshman or sophomore, like um, I would always back up, anybody that's a senior or a junior upperclassman. Like you kind of see their vision and you see why they're doing it and why there's a bigger picture to it. And so that's what a leadership or a leader, sorry, a leader sees um, in their team.
Okay, that's a great perspective. So, as you mentioned earlier, you're the chair of the GSC Student Athlete Advisory Committee. Could you please explain what SAC is and a little about what your role as chair involves?
So SAC is a student athlete advisory committee, and what we are is basically an outlet to our student athletes on campus and in our conference. And what we do is we come together and we 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 bring up either issues or anything that we would like to see something progress or could potentially benefit other athletes around the area. If you see it becoming a consistent like problem, or you see something that could potentially change, that can be brought up to a higher level at the SAC institution. You talk amongst each other within those groups, which we call those representatives, and those representatives go all the way up. They tell their board, and the board tells us, and it kind of filters out. And in the position that I'm in as a national chair rep, I take in those conference talks and those conference meetings, discussions, and I take note of it, bring it to the national level, talk amongst the D2 Division II athletes who represent their conferences and their institution, and um, we talk about, is this an issue, or is this something that needs to be at a higher level? We see a high number or a high volume of talks about it, and we bring it to the national level. And it could actually potentially change the way things are, and we're able to shape how how rules are being made, how we can have an influence and kind of like that student athlete perspective. And times change and everything. So you get that perspective, and they get the perspective of what we go through as a student athlete nowadays. And we can kind of levy the vote or uh, outlook of it.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. And then, so obviously you touched on being also a part of the NCAA Division II Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So, what has that experience been like so far, and what have you been able to learn in addition to what we just discussed?
Yeah, so I've learned absolutely so much in the span of, I would say, a year, and it's been amazing. I've had a really great support system with the GSC, and I'm filling in some big shoes from Molly Hansen. She played swim and dive at Montevallo, and yeah, I've been learning a lot. The Division Two SAC team is absolutely amazing. Um, the communication is so high. I can't I There's so much appreciation for that, and everybody's been so welcoming. And actually, like anything that I have to say is actually taken. Like they listen, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is actually amazing. Like you guys actually like do it. I was like, we can actually be heard from this side. So it's an awesome experience so far, and you grow so many connections with so many people all over the nation.
That's awesome. And now just being able to listen to you talk about all this stuff, it seems like you have a lot on your plate, whether it's SAC, whether it's being a student athlete, and then just being a student. So, how do you balance everything? I feel like time management is always something that just normal people struggle with, but now you're balancing three very intensive things. How do you manage all of that?
I like that little make it yours life in the balance implementation there. I like that. No, it's actually it's quite easy. Like when you have it's easy and hard at the same time, if that makes sense. When you are able to organize your time, and that's been a huge thing for me for the past years of my college life, you just kind of map out your thoughts, have a calendar, understand like who can help you in regards to like scheduling and making sure that you everybody's on the same page. When you have that reassurance that everybody's on the same page and everybody has an expectation of like what you can bring to the table, it puts your mind at ease, and it becomes a less stressful environment. And I feel like I have that really good support system. My team has been absolutely amazing. If there's anything that I need, like they're like, oh, you know what? Let me take the load off of you. Like, let me go wash your golf towels if that will take it off your plate. Like, if that's something in the back of your mind that you need to do, let me go do it. And so I've been so appreciative having a team like that. And and with having a coach that understands that schedule. Like, my coach um, has been a SAC representative when she was a college golfer, and she understands what that plate is like, and it makes it so much less stressful as a student athlete
Right, right.
to have that understanding, and from your coach and from your team and even from your peers.
It's always good to have a lot of support, especially when you're going through so many things. So now, as we're getting close to the end here, let's switch gears and dive into some fun questions to round this one out. So I'll start off with, what's the best concert you've ever been to?
That's a great question because I just recently went to my very first one, and it was the Post Malone one at the Wharf Amphitheater. So that was absolutely amazing. It was the country theme one. And as you can see, I'm wearing camo, so like a little bit of that. But yeah, it was the best one yet. So um, I absolutely enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Glad I asked. If you had to choose three golfers to play a round of golf with, who would it be and where would you play?
I would play with Tiger Woods, and I would play with Rose Zhang
Okay.
and Jason Day.
Okay.
Yeah, I would play with those three golfers, and I would play with them at Augusta National.
That's great. That's one place I always want to go to at some point.
I think it's so beautiful.
And then, do you have a favorite golf movie? And if you don't have a favorite golf movie, what's your favorite movie in general?
My favorite golf movie is, I'll give you two because one's serious and then one's not. So the serious one is Tin Cup,
Okay.
um, and that one's super inspiring. And the second one would be Happy Gilmore. Always a
Okay.
good laugh.
Yeah, I love Happy Gilmore. That's one of my favorite movies. So we're recording this a day before Halloween. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask a couple Halloween questions. So let's start off with what's the best costume or your favorite costume you've worn for trick or treating?
Um, I I really don't know. I actually had a memory pop up from Facebook, and I was dressed up as a um like a little like devil with the three little horn things,
The pitchfork.
and I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, with the pitchfork, and I was growling at the camera. Um, and so that was a really funny thing that I could just think of right now because it just popped in my head. Facebook memory, it was amazing.
That's awesome. And then, what is your favorite Halloween candy?
That's a really good one too. Favorite Halloween candy? I would probably say probably a good Kit Kat. That's good.
Kit Kat's a good one. Kit Kat's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, well, Leah, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great getting to know you a little bit off the course. Best of luck to you the rest of the fall season and then the rest of your spring season. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
And then to everyone else, stay tuned for what we have in store next time on Inside the GSC. Thank you.
Go Argos!